What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of V4 Higurashi, When They Cry Go. This is episode 5, and with me, as always, I have Blue Spade.
So the timeline officially resets after what happened in the last episode. I mean, what happened in the last episode, it's unknown what happened to Keiichi at the end of that episode. All we saw him do was just scratch his neck.
Okay, so... yeah, like, apparently that nurse is actually a character from Kai. I must have completely forgotten about that because people in the forums were saying that it was a nurse that showed up in Kai, and that it's implied that she, like, I think because in Kai she was, like, injecting people with something that could have, like, killed them or something. So I guess it's implied that she might have killed Keiichi at the end of that. I'm not sure, but that's what people were saying.
Yeah.
So,
well,
I didn't, I literally, like, I did not even notice that. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for me, like I said, I never watched Kai, so I have, I don't have any, like, assumption of as to who this character was.
I remember more about the first season than I do about Kai, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, well, unfortunately, we don't really get an answer as to what happened in that last episode. We just get, like, the episode just really starts off like as if, like, the events of the last several episodes never really happened. I mean, like I said, the timeline resets, and now we're officially starting off with the second arc of the story, which is, of course, mostly featuring Mion and Shion as the main characters for this particular arc, called the Cotton something, or
Cotton Deceiving. I think I think the name was originally like Cotton. It was something else. They changed. I think both of the arcs was something like Deceiving Chapter or something like that. So they changed it to Deceiving, which is interesting. Like people's theory. Like I've heard a theory that could be correct about, like, Deceiving being relevant to, like, possibly Rika being deceived into thinking that this is another arc in the story that it's not, because apparently that was her miscalculation in the first arc we saw, where she assumed it was one arc and it ended up being another one. Yeah, like that could be the case.
Yeah, so pretty much the episode itself is like in episode 1, it was almost a shot-for-shot remake from I think it was episode 5 of the original series. So it starts off like, Keiichi.
There were some things I remembered about it, like them going to the game shop.
Yeah, there was like a mini tournament, board game like tournament that was happening over there, and then of course the tournament gets cut short after Mion announces that she has to head off to her part-time work, and then.
What did you think of, like, Keiichi trying to bribe those two kids?
it was funny. I mean, like, you can tell, like, he wasn't having any luck with that life board game, so he just pretty much decides to bribe the two kids to helping him cheat the game, and like pretty much, like, just giving him just weird, like, lewd bribes as to
like, how old are those kids?
I just felt like that was a weird way for them, to bribe two little boys at that sort of age with those kinds of, like, suggestions.
Yeah, really. I was like, that. Okay, that's a little bit strange.
Yeah, but yeah. So each of the characters were eventually giving, like, I would say, like, compensation prizes or something like that. Like, like, each of the other characters were giving stuffed animals, while Keiichi is given this, like, this old looking doll. Yeah. So.
Okay. So this, I know Spade said that, like, up until this point, I would say, yeah, this is sort of a mostly faithful, like, shot for shot sort of remake from this arc in the original series. However, I would say this is where things diverge, because if you remember in the original series, when Keiichi gets the doll, he gives it to Rena, and it is implied that Mion wanted the doll, but Mion is basically characterized as having unrequited feelings for Keiichi, and she's somewhat upset that like, because they go over this, I think, later in the arc, that she's somewhat upset that she didn't get the doll from him, and he ended up giving it to Rena instead. And so instead, Rika actually talks to Keiichi, and I forget exactly what she says, but she convinces him to basically decide to give the doll to Mion. And I believe this is kind of what sets things in a somewhat different direction, as opposed to what happened in this part of the original series.
Yeah. I mean, we don't get like a full indication of like of the consequences in this episode, but I think like maybe in the next episode or two we will get to see like the consequences of that decision, I guess.
Yeah. I think like from what I noticed, it seems like because like I said in the original series, it's Mio does have feelings for Keiichi, but it's very subtle. Like she doesn't really express that at all. So I thought it was really interesting to actually see her like apparently like seem to express more of her like affections for Keiichi in this episode. It seemed like because she was going out of her way to like give him food and like she seemed kind of flustered around him, and I thought that was kind of interesting because that's not really what I remember from the original series at all. Not the original series.
You sure it wasn't Shion that gave him food in this episode?
Well, that's the thing. Like that's the thing. I'm like, I have a theory about that. I feel like this could possibly be like because that's one of the things with this arc, if you remember. People couldn't sometimes tell the difference between
I remember,
which one was Shion and which one was Mion. So I'm wondering if maybe like Mion is disguising herself as Shion and using that to express her real feelings while she couldn't really do that as Mion. I'm wondering if that might be the case, but I could be wrong.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But yeah, so I think the next scene like goes into what was it, the maid diner. But this time,
Angel Mord.
Yeah, but this time Keiichi's with his dad this time, which I don't think it really happened in the original episode. Let's like we said in previous episodes, like Keiichi's parents weren't really around in the original series. Like this is actually
it seems like they play a bigger role in this as opposed to the original series.
Yeah, but I have no idea, like, you know, if there's any significance to really having them there in the first place, but. Yeah, it's just...
So far, it seems like, at least with his dad, he's sort of just there for some slight comic relief in certain scenes.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I got. Yeah, I mean, and then, okay, so, and then, of course, like, this exact same scene, we finally get to see Shion for the first time, and, of course, like in the original one, like, Keiichi mistakes her for Mion, but, you know, later on, like, I think Shion, like, corrects him and tells her who she really is, and says that she's a twin sister, and that everyone confuses her between her and Mion's appearance because they look so similar and stuff.
Yeah. At least when the two of them are together, they do dress differently, and her hair is typically down as opposed to like being in a ponytail.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
And then what was it? I think there was another scene which Keiichi, Rena, and I think Mion were walking down the fields like in the original, and then Keiichi comes back home, like he doesn't have...
Well, Keiichi complains about not having had lunch or something.
Yes.
And like Mion is like I forget exactly, like I don't know what she said. She said she had to go to her part-time job, and then shortly after that, like Keiichi comes back home. I should also point out too, the house is empty again and it's completely dark, and his parents aren't there.
I mean,
like, and I was just like,
I said this in the last episode. I mean, for God's sakes, turn the fucking light on for.
Yeah, I know, right? I'm like, I don't even know where his parents went. Like, 'cause apparently Keiichi doesn't know either. Because like I remember, I think when he got back, he was like, where like he's trying to call out for them and they're not there.
Yeah, and then of course afterwards, I think it's either Mion or Shion that brings him lunch. I just don't. I
mean, I think it could be Mion, but yeah, like it's at least it appears to be Shion. Like she comes to like Keiichi doesn't like even like this is the thing that kind of annoyed me too. Like Keiichi didn't ask who's there or anything. He just like come right in, and of course she comes in. I'm just thinking like, what if it was like he left the door unlocked too. I'm guessing it was like a serial killer could just come in there and fucking kill him. Yeah, I mean like okay, so Shion comes in and she has a box. It's just like food. and she seems really flustered and embarrassed, and she's like, oh, I know you didn't have lunch, or like at least like Mion told me you didn't have lunch, and there's some things like that I just like, I just like, there are things here or there I'm just like, Mion conveniently said she had to go to her part-time job, and then like not too long after that we see Shion come to the door, and it's just like, it seems really suspicious to me. It makes me think that it could be one and the same person.
I mean, yes, it seems a bit too coincidental that something like that happens, but yes. So I think the next episode afterwards is Keiichi going back to the same diner, and then it gets to the exact same scene which he gets into like a...
Actually, well, before that too, because remember he goes back to the class, like they go to the next day and he's in the class.
Oh yeah, that one.
And he like thanks Mion for the food. She seems really embarrassed again, and like then she leaves, and Keiichi has like a conversation with Rena, and Rena says something about like people not like you can't really judge people by their appearance or something, like saying that Mion is actually like really girlish and shy or something like that, even though she, despite her appearance. And I thought that was kind of like a big, I guess you could say, hint or something as to like maybe how she feels about Kate. I don't know. I'm not really sure what I could like. I mean, maybe we're supposed to take something away from that, but yeah. So I thought that scene was kind of important. But yeah, like you said, after this, he goes back to the. He's walking along, and he's outside, I think, the diner, and he knocks over. Or like he rides back to the diner and he knocks over his bike, and his bike like knocks over a bunch these other bikes, and then this like biker gang just comes up to him and is about to like start a fight with him because he knocked over their bikes. And then like we see Shion come out, and she's like, you better get your hands off him, and tries to. And I'm forgetting how this played out in the original. I don't know if Spade really remembers exactly like what happened. Like, because I'm trying to remember, like, I don't know if like Shion actually like fought them, or if the same thing happens in the original. Because after this, like, there is a bunch of people around her that just kind of menacingly walk up to them and are just surrounding them. And that's pretty much how the episode ends. And I'm wondering, like, I'm not sure why that is. I'm wondering if maybe it's because we learned later that her family is apparently like part of the Yakuza, and has is a really big influence over the town. So I'm wondering if maybe it's because they're part of the Yakuza and the townspeople maybe like know that. I'm not sure. Like, I just don't know what the reason for that was exactly.
Yeah, I mean. But yeah, the episode just like abruptly ends like at that point. So, I mean, we can assume. I can't really assume what's going to happen in the next episode, considering that like a few events that like did deviate from the original, like like that with Keiichi giving the doll to Mion instead of Rena. But.
And then also some of the things with Shion too, because like I said, I don't remember her like going to his house and like giving him food and all that. And also just Mion's more like outward expression of her affections for Keiichi, it seems, because that was also, like I said, in the original, like she almost never really outwardly really expresses her feelings for him, but it's very heavily implied. But yeah, there are some slight but very noticeable differences so far, I would say.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm guessing like that they keep referencing Watanagashi, so that's coming up soon. So anytime the Watanagashi festival happens, you can pretty much bet that's when things are going to start to get go toward the horror aspect of the show again, I'm assuming. So if you remember what happens in this arc, I guess it's not too much of a spoiler considering people who've, this is mainly meant for people who've seen the original show, but I will just go ahead and say, yeah, Shion does kind of go crazy.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if maybe the same thing is going to happen.
Yeah, the infamous crazy face meme that everyone's using on Twitter.
I mean, we've already kind of established, it seems, that Rika seems to be trying to avoid the worst case scenario. So it might seem like she had, and then it might happen again, because like that seemed to be the case in the last arc, where she was trying to avoid things getting really bad, and then of course things didn't really end well. So it like bad things might happen, but it could play out differently. Is what I think might happen.
Yeah.
It might be similar to the first arc.
I'm going under the assumption that yes, things will deviate at certain points in this arc, but I have a feeling that regardless, it's gonna end badly for pretty much everyone by the end of this, regardless. And then I would assume that the next arc is gonna be almost similar to the next arc, like the original series featured. It's hard to say, but overall, yeah, it's still a good episode. I mean, it's mostly building up, like, you know, for the arc, that's mostly featuring Mion and Shion in this one. How much Rena is gonna be involved, I don't know. Maybe that's possible that she might be involved, or maybe she won't be, like, considering that Keiichi didn't give her the doll this time. So
yeah.
So we'll have to see how this is gonna, how differently this is gonna end up playing out. I mean, this is essentially like, you know, if you were actually watching like the actual like visual novel playing in real time.
Yeah, like I'm really interested to see where it goes. I seriously wonder if, like, I don't know, like, maybe Mion will actually, like, end up expressing herself to Keiichi, but I'm not sure. Like, because it seems like I said, she's in this episode, she seems much more like open about that. But at the same time, she's like, it also seems like she doesn't want to just tell him anything either. And I'm wondering, like I said, my theory is that might be the reason, like, she might be disguising herself occasionally as Shion. So it's really hard to tell, like, if that might be the case, or if that is actually Shion. Like, that makes things a little bit more confusing for me, because I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess you could argue that maybe both of them have a thing for Keiichi.
I can't.
But it is like I said, it's established in the original series that Shion is still in love with Satoshi, which is Sadako's brother, who disappeared. So she's like doing everything for him, I think.
I mean, I don't know. I would assume like that was Mion at the end of this episode, because I can't really see Shion acting in that manner, defending Keiichi. But
I don't know, like, Shion, once she snaps, she does start to act and start to go crazy. So I mean, I don't know if I'd really put it past her, but I mean, yeah, I can see that, because it's more easy to see Mion would do something like that, maybe. But I don't know. It's hard to say. I guess we'll just have to see what happens.
I mean, yeah, it's still pretty early right now, so we'll have to see what's gonna happen in the next, probably by next week, or probably in the next several episodes. I think this particular arc played out maybe at least 4 episodes, like in the original.
Yeah, I think you might be right.
Yeah, okay, and then
it was definitely longer than the first one.
Yeah, I think. At least I think it was, but yeah,
or maybe about as long.
Yeah, but so far, like, it like, there were a few deviations, but overall this episode did play out somewhat similarly to, like, in one of the episodes in the original series. But we pretty much know what this particular arc is and how it really ends originally, but we can assume some deviations will happen, thanks to Rika's insistence in some form or some way. But yeah, I'm still under the assumption that things aren't gonna go out as well as Rika intends to. Regardless of her good intentions of how she wants things to really play out, it's gonna be hard to tell. Like, I mean, you have to wonder, like, how much involvement Rika is gonna be involved in certain events like this.
I was also going to say, I was wondering if maybe we'll see Hanyu show up again too. Because,
yeah.
We learned in Kai that Hanyu is kind of helping Rika out a little bit. So I wonder how involved she's going to be in this.
Yeah, I mean, so far she's been subtly involved in these last few episodes, but you have to assume that Rika's going to be a little bit more involved this time around, considering that her last attempt to stop, I would assume, to stop Rena from killing Keiichi, didn't really go well, and then she and Satoko like ended up dead anyway. So you have to wonder what's gonna happen next afterwards.
Yeah, I'm wondering if like we'll maybe in the next episode we might get something from Rika's perspective where she like reflects on how she failed in the last arc and maybe how she can learn from it in this one.
Yeah. I think what was it? Okay, so the original one was like 26 episodes. So I would assume hopefully that this new series is at least that long. So
well, it's 24 episodes.
Okay, so we'll have to see how this. Well, we can assume that this current arc is gonna somewhat play out in a similar fashion. But yeah, but I did like this episode. I mean, it's still somewhat slice of life-ish for this episode, but it'll tension will start building up in the next few episodes before it gets to a head, maybe in the finale of this particular arc.
Yep. Yeah, but I'm interested to see what happens in the next episode. This series, I look forward to the new episode every week because mostly just because I want to see like what they're changing and what new direction the series is going in. So it's always interesting to see like how they kind of shake up some of the events like that we were familiar with from the original anime.
Yeah, but so far, from what I'm noticing, that they're replaying the exact same arcs from the original series with a few deviations. So it makes
there haven't really been anything like that's been like drastically different so far. So I'm just really like waiting for like where there's going to be maybe some huge deviation that kind of takes things in maybe a new direction or something, because like Blue said, so far it's been some small things, some things a little bit more significant, but it hasn't really changed the overall like with the first arc we saw, it didn't really change the how things ended up happening. Maybe the only difference is that Keiichi maybe lived a little bit longer, I guess, only to eventually die again. So really, I guess you could say things kind of ended more or less the same.
Yeah, that's kind of my little worry about this new iteration of the series, because like initially I thought it was gonna. Well, yeah, I still think it's a little bit predictable, like in what arcs that they're showcasing here. It's just like it's just so far the deviations have like almost little to no effect in the end, as of right now.
Just like I said, the overall result of the first arc was it might have ended in a different manner, but it still had the same same result basically. So I'm wondering if maybe that's going to be the same here, despite like I said, Rika trying to change things. So I mean, it could I guess my hope is that maybe that's how the series starts off, but maybe eventually it starts going in a totally new direction after that.
And you have to wonder if like Keiichi will also get more of those like those flash forward visions that he gotten in the last episode. If he'll get a vision of what happened between him and and the sisters. Because he did get that. He got that in the first arc. So that's another thing. He could eventually get visions of what happened to him too. So maybe he'll start like and this is another thing I could predict, is that maybe him and Rika will start like actively working together, like maybe in the other arcs or maybe later on in this arc. He'll just start like remembering more about like what happened in the previous version of this arc, and maybe in like like as the series progresses, he'll like start working more with Rika to try to like change things, because maybe he'll just start remembering more for whatever reason. So that could be something else that happens. But so far, what I can go off on is like what arcs that we've already seen in the original, and how they're implementing in this one, and what deviations that they're putting into.
But I don't really have too much else to say about this one. Like I did like the new additions. Like I did expect it to go in a different direction, and it did. It's so far it might not seem significant, but it could end up like maybe the next episode there's even more changes, or the changes that were in this episode end up leading to something totally different. So I guess it just remains to be seen. Like I said, I always get excited for these episodes because I'm wondering what changes are going to be made. But yeah, I don't really have much else to say about this one in particular. I don't know if you got anything else to say about it.
No, I mean, we'll have to wait until next week to see what's going to happen. I mean, I'm not expecting anything too drastically different, unless if I'm wrong on that. But yeah, I have a feeling I know where this is going to end up going in certain ways, but I just can't say.
Yeah, I mean, because I know we're eventually going to see the whole like family drama with Sadako and Pion, and like you already get introduced to the grandmother and all the other family members they have there, and like because the whole like thing with the original arc was the Sadako, or not Sadako, Shion she was inferior to her sister or something, and she was always like being compared to her, so I'm wondering if maybe that's like it's gonna, like I said, gonna happen the same way here. But yeah, like I said, I guess we'll have to see. So yeah, that all being said, until next Thursday, we will see you all next time.